We've talked about the history of the Flare windshield. We've talked about the form and function. Now we're going to talk about the fitment. You're going to need a buddy for this. In this case, we have Mikkel, and we have this beautiful 2020 Street Glide that we borrowed from our friends at J&L Harley Davidson. We grabbed a straight edge. You can use a board, you can use a piece of metal. In this case, we have a yardstick that we covered in black tape so it doesn't blend into the wall here. What you're going to want to do is hold that just underneath your nose, right at your upper lip, between your lip and your nose, so that it's not in your line of sight, because obviously this would be his line of sight would be up here, but in this case it's right here. And then simply take a tape measure and you're going to measure from here to this, and you can see it intersects right between the 6 and the 7, and this is a 6.5 inch windshield. Makes perfect sense, okay? So whatever size you need, whatever size you want, but the thing is, Mikkel, on your personal bike, which is an older model of this same motorcycle.
Yeah, I have a 06 Electra Glide.
Okay, and when they went to the vent system, which is the 13 and down bikes had no vent, 14 and up have the vent, they effectively raised the height of this whole fairing 1 inch, okay? So what do you run on your personal bike?
I usually run an 8.5.
Yeah, and so an 8.5 will give him just a little more protection, but keep in mind that his fairing sits 1 inch lower than this particular bike, okay? So the best thing you can do is get on your bike with your seat, with your handlebars, sitting the way you sit, because in this case, if Mikkel slouched, okay, he'd be right down here, but what you don't want is we don't want you to look through this curved part of the windshield, because there will be a distortion factor. The other thing we just talked about was keep in mind that just because the air hits you a little taller, and you might have said this better than I do, so you can take it away.
Sure, a lot of guys call and say, hey, I have the stock Street Glide shield, it's about 4 or 5 inches, and the wind's hitting me right above the eyes. I just need the windshield 2 or 3 inches taller. Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Really what you want is the wind to go 2 or 3 inches taller or more. You don't necessarily need the windshield physically that much taller. It all depends on where your line of sight is. Let the Flare windshield do the job of kicking the air up and over you. Don't think you absolutely need the tallest windshield you can get to get the air over you. You just want something that's comfortable, below your line of sight. As you can see, the flip and the design of the Klock Werks Flare is what's going to do the job of getting the air over your head.
We always say like a 6.5 works more like an 8 inch windshield. So if you have a normal straight 8 inch windshield, this is going to be that effective height. But the key is always make sure that you can see over it, you know. We want to make sure that that line of sight factor comes into play. Remember, it's your ride, you decide.